She donated blood in an emergency to save the mafia boss's daughter. Then, he recognized her as the same woman he cruelly mocked just days ago. Subscribe and like if you're ready to fall into twists that break hearts and defy fate. The crystal chandeliers of the Grand Plaza Hotel cast golden shadows across marble floors as Adrian Cross stepped through the revolving doors, his 6'3" frame commanding immediate attention. Men in expensive suits instinctively stepped aside, their conversations dying mid-sentence. They didn't need to know his face to recognize power when it walked past them. At 34, Adrian had built an empire that stretched from the docks of Brooklyn to the penthouses of Manhattan. Money laundering was his specialty, turning dirty cash into legitimate businesses with the stroke of a pen. The small tattoo on his wrist, barely visible beneath his custom Tom Ford suit, was the only outward sign of the world he truly belonged to. Those who knew what it meant never dared to look him in the eye. "Mr. Cross, your usual table is ready," the hostess breathed, her cheeks flushing pink. He didn't acknowledge her. His mind was already on the meeting ahead. A senator who needed convincing, numbers that needed adjusting, problems that needed to disappear. The hotel's restaurant was his office, neutral ground where deals were made over 30-year scotch and medium-rare steaks. His reputation preceded him everywhere he went. The whispers followed him through the dining room like shadows. Business owners who'd refused his offers, and then mysteriously changed their minds. Competitors who'd challenged his territory and simply vanished. Adrian Cross was a ghost in a $1,000 suit, and everyone knew better than to look too closely. That's when she appeared. A young woman in a simple black dress and white apron, balancing a tray of coffee cups with practiced ease. She was pretty in an understated way, light brown hair pulled back in a neat bun, clear blue eyes focused on her task, no jewelry except small silver earrings. She looked utterly ordinary, which in Adrian's world made her invisible. Until she wasn't. Her foot caught on the edge of a rug. Adrian watched in slow motion as the tray tilted, as her eyes widened in horror, as scalding coffee arced through the air and splashed directly onto his $15,000 suit jacket. The restaurant went silent. Every conversation stopped. Every head turned. The woman, her name tag read Emma, stood frozen, the empty tray trembling in her hands like a leaf in a storm. "Oh my God, Do you have any idea what you've just done?" Adrian's voice was ice, each word precisely cut. He peeled off his ruined jacket, dark coffee staining the white shirt underneath, seeping through to his skin. His bodyguards moved forward instinctively, but he waved them back with a flick of his wrist. This required a different kind of handling. Emma's face had gone pale, all the blood draining from her cheeks, but there was steel in her spine as she straightened. "It was an accident. I'll pay for the dry cleaning." "Dry cleaning?" He laughed, a sound completely devoid of humor, sharp as broken glass. "This jacket cost more than you make in 6 months, probably more than you make in a year, but I suppose that's what happens when establishments hire clumsy waitresses who can't manage a simple coffee tray without destroying expensive property." Her cheeks flamed red now, but whether from embarrassment or anger, he couldn't tell. Her hands clenched at her sides. "I said I was sorry. I truly am. It was an accident. Sorry doesn't clean Italian silk, does it?" Adrian turned to the restaurant manager who had materialized at his elbow, sweating profusely, his face the color of raw dough. "Is this really the caliber of staff you employ here? I'll be having a very detailed conversation with your owner about quality standards and what they apparently mean in this establishment." The manager sputtered, his words tumbling over each other. "Mr. Cross, I assure you, this has never happened before. We have the highest standards. I don't need assurances. I need competence. Basic competence." He fixed Emma with a cold stare, his dark eyes like winter. "You should find another line of work. Clearly, this one is far beyond your capabilities. You're a liability." For a moment, something flickered in her blue eyes, hurt and fury combined, vulnerability and strength fighting for dominance. Then she lifted her chin, met his gaze with surprising directness that almost made him pause, and said quietly, with dignity that shouldn't have been possible in that moment. "You're right. I should be somewhere I'm actually helping people instead of serving coffee to people who think money makes them better than everyone else. Excuse me." She turned on her heel and walked away, spine straight, dignity intact despite the disaster, despite the stares, despite his cruelty. Adrian watched her go, already forgetting her face as his phone buzzed with an urgent message. Business called. The world kept turning. Coffee-stained suits could be replaced with a single phone call. He had empires to run, enemies to outmaneuver, money to move through channels that would make federal prosecutors weep with frustration. One clumsy waitress meant nothing in the grand scheme of his existence. He had no way of knowing that in 3 days, everything would change, that this moment would come back to haunt him in ways he couldn't imagine. 3 days later, Adrian's world imploded in a hospital corridor. His daughter, 6-year-old Sophia, the only pure thing in his dark life, the only reason his heart still beat, had collapsed at school during recess. Internal bleeding from a condition no one had known existed. Rare blood type. They needed a donor immediately, or she wouldn't make it through the night. The doctors had been brutally honest about her chances. Adrian Cross, who controlled half of New York's underground, who made senators sweat and rivals disappear, who'd built an empire from nothing but violence and will, stood helpless as doctors delivered words that shattered him into pieces. "We're searching the registry, Mr. Cross. But AB negative is extremely rare, less than 1% of the population. We may not find a match in time. I'm sorry." He'd offered everything. Money, millions, whatever it took. Threats barely concealed. Promises he'd move heaven and earth. Nothing mattered. Sophia's life hung by a thread thinner than spider silk, and for the first time since he was 15 years old watching his father die, Adrian felt powerless. Completely, utterly powerless. Then a nurse emerged from the testing area, her expression cautiously hopeful, like sunrise after the longest night. "We found a match." A hospital employee volunteered when she heard about the emergency. "She's AB negative and willing to donate immediately. We're prepping her now." Adrian's knees nearly buckled with relief. His bodyguards caught his arms. "Where is she? I need to see her. I need to thank her." "She's in the donation room now. We're preparing—" He didn't wait. Couldn't wait. He strode down the corridor, his bodyguards struggling to keep pace with his desperate speed, and burst through the door marked blood services like a man possessed. And stopped cold. Froze completely. There, lying on a donation bed with a needle in her arm, blood flowing through clear tubing, was the waitress. Emma. The woman he'd humiliated 3 days ago. The woman whose career he'd destroyed with casual cruelty. Their eyes met across the room. Recognition flared in her gaze, followed by something he couldn't quite read. Shock. Maybe resignation. She didn't look away. The nurse attending her jumped at his entrance. "Sir, you can't be in here during the procedure." "That's my daughter she's saving," Adrian said hoarsely, his voice breaking on the last word. "I need to speak with her, please." Emma's expression remained carefully neutral, professionally blank. "How is she? Your daughter? They say you're giving her a chance." His voice cracked despite his best efforts at control. "Why would you do this for me? After what I said to you? After what I did?" She was quiet for a long moment, watching her blood flow through the clear tube into the collection bag. "I'm not doing this for you, Mr. Cross. I'm doing it for a 6-year-old girl who needs help and doesn't deserve to die because her father is an asshole. That's what nurses do. We help people, regardless of whether their fathers are decent human beings or not." The words struck harder than any physical blow he'd ever taken. Adrian had been called many things: criminal, monster, devil, ghost, but no one had ever looked at him with such quiet, devastating disappointment. Not anger. Disappointment. It cut deeper. "I'm sorry." The words felt foreign on his tongue, unfamiliar, unused. For what I said at the restaurant, I was unnecessarily cruel, unforgivably cruel. Yes, you were. She didn't soften even slightly. You humiliated me in front of everyone, got me fired that same day, and made me feel worthless. All because of an accident that could have happened to anyone. You were fired? Something twisted in his chest. Guilt, maybe. Or the ghost of conscience. That same day, within an hour. Her laugh was bitter, sharp. But it's fine. It worked out. I found something better. I became a nurse like I always wanted. So in a twisted way, you did me a favor. Forced me onto the path I should have taken years ago. Adrian stood there, this man who never apologized, who never explained himself, who never showed weakness, and felt something unfamiliar twist in his chest. Shame. Real, burning shame. Let me make it right. Name your price. Anything. There is no price, Mr. Cross. Emma's eyes were hard as sapphires, cold as winter sky. I don't want your money. I want you to leave this room now and let me finish saving your daughter's life in peace. Then I want you to forget I exist, just like you probably did 3 seconds after destroying my career and walking away. But Adrian knew, with sudden, absolute certainty, that forgetting her would be impossible. Completely impossible. Sophia survived. The transfusion worked like a miracle, her tiny body accepting Emma's blood like a gift from heaven itself. Adrian sat by his daughter's bedside for 48 hours straight, watching her chest rise and fall, counting every breath, thanking a God he'd stopped believing in 20 years ago when his father had died in his arms. His men stood guard outside, a silent wall of protection that made other hospital visitors nervous. But inside that sterile room, Adrian was just a father who'd almost lost everything that mattered. When Sophia finally opened her eyes, weak but alive, and whispered, "Daddy," in that small voice, Adrian broke. He held her small hand in his scarred ones and cried for the first time since he'd buried his own father. Tears he'd thought had dried up years ago. The empire, the money, the power, the fear and respect. None of it meant anything compared to this moment. His daughter was alive. "There's someone I want you to meet," the nurse on duty said gently. A kind woman in her 50s with warm eyes. The woman who donated the blood that saved Sophia's life. She's been asking about her every hour, checking in on her breaks. Adrian looked up, his eyes red-rimmed but sharp, always sharp. "She's still here? She didn't leave?" Emma works in pediatrics on the 4th floor. She took all her breaks to come check on Sophia, brought her chart to her supervisor to monitor personally. The nurse smiled with genuine warmth. "She's special, that one. Cares more about her patients than anyone I've seen in 30 years of nursing." 10 minutes later, Emma entered the room in blue scrubs, her hair still in that neat bun, a small teddy bear tucked under her arm. She moved past Adrian as if he were furniture, invisible, her entire focus on the little girl in the bed. The dismissal stung more than it should have. "Hi, Sophia, I'm Emma." Her voice was warm honey, nothing like the ice she'd directed at him. "I heard you've been very brave through all this." Sophia's eyes lit up like stars. "Are you the angel who gave me blood?" "Daddy said an angel saved me." Emma laughed, a sound that did something strange to Adrian's chest, made something there crack and shift. "Not an angel, sweetheart. Just a nurse who was happy to help a brave girl. I brought you a friend to keep you company." She handed over the teddy bear, soft and brown with a red ribbon. "His name is Hero, because that's what you are. A hero for being so brave." "Thank you." Sophia hugged the bear tightly, then looked between Emma and her father with a child's uncanny perception, that way kids have of seeing what adults try to hide. "Do you know my daddy?" The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Emma's smile didn't falter, but her eyes went cold when they finally met Adrian's, ice forming in blue depths. "We've met before. Your father and I had a very memorable first encounter. Very memorable indeed." "Emma," Adrian started, standing slowly, carefully. "I need to speak with you, please, just for a moment." I'm on duty, Mr. Cross, and Sophia needs her rest. She checked the monitors with professional efficiency, made notes on the chart clipped to the bed, all business. I'll be back to check on you later, sweetheart. You rest now, okay? She headed for the door with clear dismissal. Emma, wait. Adrian's voice held a note of desperation he'd never heard in himself before, didn't recognize. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Please. She paused at the threshold, her back rigid, every line of her body screaming reluctance. Sophia, close your eyes and rest for a few minutes, okay? Your dad and I need to talk in the hallway about boring grown-up things. Once outside, Emma crossed her arms and leaned against the wall, her expression professionally blank, but her eyes blazing. You have 5 minutes. Talk. I want to make amends for what I did. Adrian ran a hand through his dark hair, disheveling it, a rare sign of agitation. What I did to you was unforgivable, inexcusable. You lost your job because of my pride and cruelty, and then you turned around and saved my daughter's life without hesitation. I owe you everything. Everything. You owe me nothing. Sophia is my patient. I would have done the same for any child in this hospital. Let me do something. Anything. A donation to the hospital in your name, a new car, a house, college fund, whatever you need. I don't want your money, Mr. Cross. Emma's voice was sharp as a scalpel. I know who you are now. Really know. One of the other nurses recognized you, filled me in on your reputation. Adrian Cross, the ghost who runs half of New York's underground. Money launderer, crime lord, the man who makes people and problems disappear. She stepped closer, fearless in a way that both impressed and terrified him. So, no. I don't want anything from you except for you to stay away from me once Sophia is discharged and out of my care. You know what I am and you're not afraid? He searched her face. I'm terrified, she admitted with brutal honesty. But I'm also a nurse, and Sophia is a child who needs care and deserves the best. My personal feelings about her father don't change my professional obligations or my moral duty to a sick child. Adrian studied her, this woman who'd seen the absolute worst of him and still saved his daughter without hesitation. She should be running, should be putting as much distance between them as possible. Instead, she stood her ground, blue eyes blazing with conviction and strength. What if I told you I want to change? The words came out before he could stop them, before he could think. What if I told you that watching my daughter almost die made me realize I've been living wrong? That I want to be better? Then I'd say that's between you and your conscience, Mr. Cross. Your potential redemption arc has nothing to do with me. Emma pushed off the wall. Your 5 minutes are up. I have other patients who need me. Have dinner with me. The request shocked them both. Adrian Cross didn't ask, he commanded, he demanded, he took. But something about this woman made him want to try being someone different, someone better. One meal. Let me apologize properly, away from the hospital. No. Absolutely not. Why not? Because men like you don't change, Mr. Cross. You might feel guilty now, might even mean what you're saying in this moment. But tomorrow, next week, next month, you'll be back to running your empire, making your deals, destroying lives without a second thought. She met his eyes steadily, unflinching. And I won't be collateral damage in your world. I've worked too hard to build a life I'm proud of to throw it away. She walked away down the corridor, leaving Adrian standing there alone, feeling something he hadn't experienced in years. Genuine rejection. Not the fearful rejection of people too scared to say no, but the honest refusal of a woman who saw exactly who he was, understood it completely, and wanted no part of it. For the first time in his life, Adrian Cross wanted something he couldn't buy, threaten, or manipulate into being. He wanted Emma Lawson to see him as more than the monster everyone knew him to be, and he had absolutely no idea how to make that happen. Back in Sophia's room, his daughter was drowsing peacefully, clutching her new teddy bear. Daddy, I like Emma. She's really nice and smells like flowers. She is, Princess. She's very nice. Is she going to be my friend? Can she visit us? Adrian kissed his daughter's forehead, breathing in her little girl's scent. I hope so, baby. I really hope so. But he knew hope was a luxury men like him rarely got to keep. Outside the window, the city continued its endless rhythm, his empire waiting for his attention. Inside, Sophia slept peacefully, saved by a woman who wanted nothing from him. The contrast had never been more stark, more painful. Adrian made a decision then, watching his daughter sleep. He would prove to Emma that he could be better, that change was possible. Not for his sake, but for Sophia's. His daughter deserved a father she could be proud of one day, not one she'd grow up to fear or worse, to be ashamed of. And if Emma Lawson was the catalyst for that change, then maybe there was still hope. 2 weeks passed in strange suspension. Sophia made a full recovery and was discharged with strict orders for rest and regular follow-up appointments. Adrian had expected to never see Emma again outside of medical necessities, had resigned himself to the fact that some bridges, once burned completely to ash, could never be rebuilt. He'd been wrong. Emma was assigned as Sophia's primary nurse for all the follow-up care. Whether by coincidence or design, he couldn't tell. The first appointment was tense enough to cut with a knife. Adrian sat in the pediatric clinic's waiting room, surrounded by cheerful murals of cartoon animals and children's laughter that felt surreal, feeling distinctly out of place in his dark suit among the mothers in yoga pants and fathers in casual clothes. His bodyguards waited outside per the clinic's request. He'd learned that their presence terrified the other parents and upset the children. When Emma called Sophia's name from the doorway, his daughter squealed with delight and ran to hug her like they were old friends. "Hero, missed you so much." Sophia held up the teddy bear, now her constant companion, slightly worn already from constant affection. "I missed you both too, sweetheart." Emma's smile was genuine and warm for Sophia, carefully neutral and professional for Adrian. "Let's see how strong you're getting, brave girl. Come on back." The examination was professional and thorough. Emma checked Sophia's vitals with practiced efficiency, asked detailed questions about her energy levels, her appetite, her sleep patterns, any unusual symptoms. Adrian watched, fascinated despite himself by the gentle competence Emma displayed. This was her element, where she truly shone. Here she wasn't the woman he'd humiliated or the nurse who despised him. She was a healer, someone who genuinely cared about every child who came through that door. "Everything looks absolutely perfect," Emma announced, making careful notes in Sophia's chart. "Sophia, you're doing amazingly well. Your body accepted the transfusion beautifully. You're a medical miracle." "That's because we match now," Sophia said happily, swinging her legs from the examination table. "You and me, we have the same blood. That makes us family, right?" "That's what Daddy said." Emma's expression softened in a way Adrian had never seen. "I suppose it does, in a way. Blood sisters." "So you have to come to my birthday party. It's in 3 weeks and I'm turning 7. Daddy, tell her she has to come." Adrian saw the panic flash across Emma's face, quick as lightning. "Sophia, I'm sure Emma is very busy with work and her own life. Please?" Sophia's eyes were wide, pleading with devastating effectiveness. "You saved my life. You have to be there. It wouldn't be a party without you." Emma looked trapped, cornered, her eyes darting between Sophia's hopeful face and Adrian's carefully neutral expression. "Sophia, I appreciate the invitation so much, but it's at our house. Daddy's having a princess party with a real castle bounce house and everything. And there's going to be a pony. A real one." "Your house?" Emma's eyes snapped to Adrian's, horror and something else dawning in their blue depths. "You're inviting me to your home? Your actual home?" Adrian kept his expression carefully blank, giving nothing away. "It's what Sophia wants more than anything. I know it's asking a lot, probably too much. It's asking everything." Emma's voice was low, meant only for him, tight with tension. "Do you have any idea how inappropriate this is? How dangerous? I'm her nurse, you're who you are." "Her father," who wants to give his daughter the best birthday possible after almost losing her. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. I'm not asking you to be comfortable, Emma. I'm not asking you to like me or forgive me. I'm asking you to make a little girl happy for 2 hours. That's all. 2 hours of your time. She looked at Sophia, who was watching them with hopeful eyes that would melt stone, clutching Hero tightly against her chest. Adrian saw the exact moment Emma surrendered, saw her walls crack. 2 hours, she agreed tightly, her jaw set. And I'm bringing backup, non-negotiable. Backup? My brother. He's a cop with the NYPD. She smiled sweetly, sharp as knives. Just so we're clear on the kind of family I come from, Mr. Cross? Adrian felt a muscle tick in his jaw. A cop. Of course. The universe had a twisted, cruel sense of humor. The more the merrier. Family is important. I'll have my assistant send you all the details. The second appointment, 1 week later, went differently. Adrian arrived 30 minutes early, his mind churning, and found Emma in the staff break room, steeling herself with black coffee before seeing patients. He knocked on the doorframe softly. We need to stop meeting like this, Emma said without looking up, her voice tired. People will talk, are already talking. Let them talk. Adrian stepped inside, closing the door behind him with a soft click. I wanted to give you something before Sophia's appointment, before you could refuse. I told you, I don't want your... She stopped when she saw the manila envelope in his hands, plain and unremarkable. What is that? Information, documentation, about the restaurant where you used to work. He set it on the break room table between them like a peace offering. I bought it last week. The manager who fired you was let go with a severance package. If you want your old position back, it's yours. With a significant raise and a formal written apology from the new management team. Emma stared at the envelope like it might explode or bite her. You bought an entire restaurant because you felt guilty about getting me fired? I bought it because I destroy things, Emma. It's what I'm good at, what I've always been good at. But maybe, just once, I can fix something too instead of just breaking it. He pushed the envelope closer. You don't have to accept it. I just wanted you to know the option exists. The choice is yours. I don't want to be a waitress again. I'm a nurse now. This is what I'm meant to do. I know that. This isn't about what I want or need. It's about giving you back the choice I took away when I destroyed your career on a whim. Adrian moved toward the door, then paused, his hand on the frame. For what it's worth, watching you with Sophia, seeing how you care for your patients with such dedication, I think you made exactly the right choice. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. The world needs more nurses like you. He left before she could respond, before she could see how much her opinion had started to matter to him. Behind him, Emma stood frozen, the envelope untouched on the table, her carefully constructed walls beginning to crack despite her best efforts. This man, this dangerous man who destroyed lives, had just given her back her dignity without expecting anything in return. It terrified her how much that single gesture meant, how it made her want to see past the monster. Sophia's appointment went smoothly, perfectly. As they were leaving, Sophia tugged on Emma's hand with gentle insistence. You're still coming to my party, right? You super promised. I promised, Emma confirmed, her eyes meeting Adrian's over his daughter's head, something unreadable passing between them. I'll be there. Wild horses couldn't keep me away. Good. Perfect. Sophia beamed like sunshine. Daddy says you're the bravest person he knows. I think so too. You're my hero. Later that evening, as Adrian drove Sophia home in his armored SUV, his daughter chattered happily about her upcoming party, about decorations and cake flavors, and which friends from school to invite. But Adrian's mind was on Emma, on the way she'd looked at him in that break room, wary but not afraid anymore. Interested despite herself, despite every logical reason not to be. It was progress, small but significant, fragile as new growth. His phone rang, shattering the moment. Marcus, his second in command. his voice tight with tension. "Boss, we have a problem. A serious one. The Romano family is making moves, asking questions. They heard about Sophia's hospitalization somehow. They're digging, asking questions we don't want answered." Adrian's blood went cold, ice in his veins. The Romanos were rivals, dangerous ones who'd been looking for weakness for years. If they knew about Sophia, if they knew she'd been vulnerable, if they connected the dots. Handle it. Quietly and completely. "I don't want any traces." "Already on it, boss. But they're digging into the hospital records, pulling strings. If they find out about the nurse who donated blood, if they make the connection..." "They won't." Adrian's voice was steel wrapped in ice. "Make absolutely sure of it. I don't care what it costs or what you have to do, protect that information." He hung up, his hands tightening on the steering wheel until his knuckles went white. This was exactly why he'd tried to keep Emma at a distance. Why he'd known better than to let anyone into his world. This was the reality he lived in. The Romanos wouldn't hesitate to hurt anyone connected to him, and Emma had made herself a target the moment she'd saved Sophia's life, the moment her name entered that hospital record. He couldn't tell her the truth. If he did, she'd disappear, take herself out of Sophia's life to stay safe, and his daughter would be heartbroken. But keeping her in the dark felt like a betrayal of a different kind, felt like using her. Adrian was trapped between protecting Emma and keeping her close enough to protect. And for once in his calculating life, he had no idea which choice would destroy everything. 3 weeks until the birthday party. 3 weeks to neutralize the Romano threat completely. 3 weeks to figure out how to keep Emma safe without her ever knowing she'd been in danger, without her ever knowing what his world truly cost. Adrian Cross had built an empire on impossible odds and calculated risks. But this felt different, more personal, infinitely more terrifying. Because for the first time in his adult life, he had something real to lose beyond power and money and territory. He had people he cared about, and in his world, caring was the most dangerous thing you could do. It made you vulnerable. It made you weak. It made you human. And human didn't survive long in the shadows where he lived. Sophia's 7th birthday party was supposed to be perfect. The backyard of Adrian's estate had been transformed into a fairy tale kingdom, complete with a castle bounce house, a real Shetland pony with flowers braided into its mane, and enough pink decorations to make a grown man weep. 20 children ran shrieking with joy, while their parents mingled awkwardly, trying not to stare at the obvious bodyguards stationed at every entrance. Emma arrived exactly on time with her brother, Detective James Lawson, a broad-shouldered man in his early 30s with a cop's suspicious eyes and a protective arm around his sister. Adrian watched from the terrace as Emma took in the spectacle, her expression caught between amazement and concern. "This is insane," she muttered to her brother. "Who throws a party like this for a 7-year-old? "Someone with too much money and something to prove," James replied, his gaze already cataloging exits and potential threats. "I don't like this, Em. This guy is bad news." "I know, but I promised Sophia." Emma spotted the birthday girl, and her face softened. And she deserves a perfect day. Sophia saw Emma and squealed, running across the lawn in her princess dress. "You came! You really came! And Hero is here too!" She hugged the teddy bear she'd been carrying all day. "I wouldn't miss it for the world, birthday girl." Emma hugged her tight, and Adrian felt something twist in his chest watching them. This was what Sophia had been missing. A gentle maternal presence. Someone who cared without agenda. The party proceeded smoothly for the first hour. Emma kept her distance from Adrian, staying with the other parents, laughing at the children's antics, helping serve cake. But he caught her watching him sometimes when she thought he wasn't looking, her expression thoughtful rather than hostile. Progress, he told himself. Small steps. Then Marcus appeared at his elbow, his face grim. "We need to talk. Now. Inside." Adrian's blood went cold. Marcus knew better than to interrupt during Sophia's party unless it was critical. He excused himself and followed his second-in-command into his study, closing the heavy oak door behind them. The Romanos made their move, Marcus said without preamble. They grabbed the hospital records. They know about Emma Lawson, they know she saved Sophia, and they know she's here right now. The world tilted. How did they? Someone on the inside at the hospital were handling it. But boss, they're watching the house. They've been here for 20 minutes, scoping exits, counting guards. Marcus pulled up security footage on his tablet. They're planning something. Today. Adrian's mind raced through scenarios, each worse than the last. Double the perimeter guards. Get Sophia inside quietly. No panic. And Emma, they want leverage against you. She's the target. The cop brother complicates things, but they don't care. Get them both out, now. Back entrance, armored car, full escort to... The explosion cut him off. Not large, just enough to create chaos. The back gate, Adrian's mind supplied even as he was already running. They'd breached the perimeter. His worst nightmare was unfolding at his daughter's birthday party. Outside was pandemonium. Parents screaming, children crying, security shouting into radios. Adrian spotted James Lawson immediately, his detective instincts kicking in, already moving children toward the house. But Emma, where was Emma? Sophia, Adrian's daughter, was standing frozen near the bounce house, tears streaming down her face, clutching Hero. He ran to her, scooped her up. Inside, princess. It's going to be okay. Where's Emma? Daddy, where's Emma? Adrian's blood turned to ice. He scanned the yard frantically. Emma was nowhere to be seen. Neither were the three men in dark suits he'd noticed lingering near the back fence earlier. The ones Marcus must have been tracking. James appeared, his service weapon drawn. Where's my sister? Where the hell is Emma? They took her. The words tasted like ash. The Romanos took her. The detective grabbed Adrian by his expensive shirt, fury and fear in his eyes. This is your fault. I told her, I warned her to stay away from you. He was right. It was Adrian's fault. Everything he touched turned to poison, and now Emma was paying the price for his sins. I'll get her back. I swear to you. You better pray she's alive when we find her. James released him with a shove. Because if anything happens to my sister, I don't care who you are. I will destroy you. Adrian handed Sophia to one of his most trusted men. Take her to the safe room. No one gets through that door. He turned to Marcus, and the man who looked back was no longer a father at a birthday party. He was the ghost of New York's underground, and his eyes promised death. Find them. Find her. I want every resource we have on this. Call in every favor. I don't care what it costs. Boss, we need to be smart about this. The Romanos want you to react emotionally, make mistakes. I don't care what they want. Adrian's voice was raw. They took her because of me. She's in danger because I was selfish enough to let her into our lives. Find her, Marcus. Now. The next 6 hours were the longest of Adrian's life. His men worked their network, following leads, tracking movements. The Romanos had taken Emma to an old warehouse in Red Hook, the same warehouse where Adrian's father had died 20 years ago. The symbolism wasn't lost on him. They were sending a message. Detective Lawson had called in his own resources, FBI connections who owed him favors, but they all knew the truth. If they went in official, Emma would die. The Romanos would kill her the moment they saw badges. This required a different approach. They want a trade, Marcus reported, his phone pressed to his ear. Emma, for you. Solo. You walk in, she walks out. Done. Boss, it's obviously a trap. They'll kill you both. Then make sure that doesn't happen. Adrian checked the gun at his ankle, the knife in his jacket. But I'm going in. Emma wouldn't be in danger if it wasn't for me. I won't let her die for my sins. James Lawson stepped forward. I'm going with you. She's my sister. You're a cop. They see you, they'll kill her immediately out of spite. Then I'll hang back, provide cover. But I'm not sitting this out. The detective's jaw was set. You got her into this mess. We're getting her out together. Adrian nodded once. Strange bedfellows, a crime lord and a cop, united by a woman they both wanted to protect. Marcus, position snipers on the surrounding buildings. James and I go in through the front. If things go south, you know what to do. Take them all out, Marcus confirmed grimly. The warehouse loomed against the night sky, dark and forbidding. Adrian could feel his father's ghost in these walls, could remember being 15 and helpless, watching the light fade from the old man's eyes. He wouldn't lose someone else he cared about in this cursed place. He walked through the front entrance alone, hands visible, no weapons drawn. "I'm here, let her go." Lights flicked on, blinding. When his eyes adjusted, he saw Emma tied to a chair in the center of the warehouse floor, duct tape over her mouth, terror in her blue eyes. Around her stood 5 men, all armed, all familiar faces from the Romano organization. And at the front, Vincent Romano himself, a snake in an expensive suit. Adrian Cross, the ghost finally shows himself. Vincent smiled, cold and cruel. "I've waited a long time for this. You killed my brother 5 years ago. Did you think I'd forget? Your brother tried to muscle in on my territory. He knew the consequences." Adrian's eyes were locked on Emma, trying to communicate without words. "I'm sorry, I'll get you out." "Let her go. This is between us." "Oh, but she's the perfect leverage, isn't she? I watched you at that party, saw how you looked at her. The great Adrian Cross brought low by a woman. It's almost poetic." Vincent walked closer to Emma, stroked her hair. She flinched away. "She's pretty. I can see the appeal. Maybe I'll keep her after I kill you. A consolation prize." Rage burned through Adrian, white-hot and consuming. "Touch her again and dying will be a mercy you won't receive." Vincent laughed. "You're in no position to make threats. You're outgunned, outmanned, and I have everything you care about." He pulled out a knife, pressed it to Emma's throat. "So here's how this works. You're going to—" He never finished the sentence. Emma, who they'd underestimated as a helpless victim, drove her head backward into Vincent's face with all her strength. His nose shattered with a satisfying crunch, blood spraying, and in that moment of chaos, everything exploded into motion. James Lawson came through the side entrance, weapon blazing, taking down 2 men before they could react. Marcus's snipers fired through the high windows, precision shots that dropped another 2. Adrian was already moving, closing the distance to Emma, his focus singular. Vincent, blood streaming down his face, grabbed Emma's chair and tipped it backward, sending her crashing to the concrete. "If I can't have my revenge, no one gets anything." Adrian saw the knife coming down toward Emma's chest and threw himself between them. The blade caught his shoulder instead, tearing through muscle, but he didn't feel it. His fist connected with Vincent's jaw once, twice, 3 times, each blow carrying 20 years of rage and pain and fear. The knife clattered away. "It's over," Adrian growled, his hand around Vincent's throat. "Your brother knew the rules. You should have let it go." Behind him, James was cutting Emma free from the ropes, pulling the tape gently from her mouth. She was crying, shaking, but alive. Alive. That was all that mattered. Police sirens wailed in the distance. James must have called them in. Smart. "We need to go," the detective said urgently. "All of us. Before my colleagues arrive and start asking questions nobody wants to answer." Adrian released Vincent, who collapsed, gasping. "If you come near her again, if you even think about her, I will end your entire family. Do you understand me?" Vincent nodded, broken and defeated. The Romano threat was neutralized, but the cost had been almost too high. Adrian stood, swaying slightly from blood loss, and turned to face Emma. She was staring at him, tears streaming down her face, her wrists raw from the ropes. "You came for me. You could have just let them—" "Never!" he interrupted fiercely. "Emma, I would burn this entire city down before I let anything happen to you." The words hung between them, too honest, too raw. "I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry you were hurt because of me." Emma did something he didn't expect. She closed the distance between them and slapped him hard across the face. "You're an idiot!" A self-sacrificing idiot who almost got himself killed. Then she kissed him, hard and desperate and full of everything they'd both been fighting. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian touched his forehead to hers. "I don't deserve you." "No," she agreed. "You really don't. But maybe you could try to." James cleared his throat. "Touching reunion, really, but those sirens are getting closer, and I'd rather not explain to my captain why I'm at a crime scene with New York's most wanted. Can we save the romance for later?" They left the warehouse together, an unlikely trio bound by the night's violence. Adrian knew everything had changed. Emma had seen his world at its worst and hadn't run. She'd fought back, saved herself, and somehow still looked at him like he might be worth saving too. It was more than he deserved, but he'd spend the rest of his life trying to be worthy of that faith. Starting with walking away from the empire that had nearly killed her. Some things were worth more than power. He was finally beginning to understand that. The safe house was a luxury penthouse in Tribeca that didn't officially exist in any database, one of Adrian's many properties hidden behind shell corporations and false names. Emma sat on the leather sofa wrapped in a blanket, her hands still trembling slightly as she held a cup of tea she hadn't touched. James paced by the windows, his cop instincts warring with the reality that he was in a criminal's hideout. Adrian stood near the fireplace, his shoulder freshly bandaged by his personal doctor, watching Emma with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "I need to call this in," James said finally, breaking the heavy silence. "Emma was kidnapped. There are bodies at that warehouse. I'm a detective. I can't just—" "You can and you will," Adrian interrupted, his voice leaving no room for argument. "The moment you involve the NYPD officially, Emma becomes a target again. Every criminal organization in the city will know she's connected to me. The Romanos have allies who won't forget this." "He's right," Emma said quietly, and both men turned to her in surprise. "I saw their faces, James. They talked like I was already dead. If word gets out that I survived, that I can identify them." She shuddered. "I'm not safe yet." James ran his hands through his hair in frustration. "So what's the plan? Emma hides forever? You expect her to just disappear because you dragged her into your world?" "Yes." Adrian's answer was simple, devastating. "That's exactly what I expect. What I'm asking her to do." He finally looked at Emma directly, and she saw something she'd never seen in his eyes before: fear. "I'm walking away from the organization. Tonight. I'm out." The room went silent. Even James stopped pacing. "You can't just walk away from the Mafia," the detective said incredulously. "That's not how it works. They'll kill you." "They'll try." Adrian's smile was cold, dangerous. "I've been preparing for this possibility for months, since the day Emma saved Sophia's life. I have enough information on enough people to ensure my safety and Emma's. Insurance, you might call it. Locations of bodies, financial records, enough evidence to bring down half the criminal organizations in New York." He pulled a flash drive from his pocket. "This is my exit strategy, and my guarantee that Emma stays safe." Emma stood slowly, the blanket falling from her shoulders. "You've been planning to leave? For months?" "Since the moment I realized I wanted to be someone Sophia could be proud of. Someone you might not look at with disappointment." Adrian took a step toward her, then stopped himself. "I've spent 20 years building an empire of fear and blood. I thought power was everything, that it made me untouchable. But watching Sophia almost die, watching you risk your life to save her, and then watching you get hurt because of my choices." His voice cracked. "I'm done. I want out. I want a life where the people I love aren't in constant danger." "The people you love?" Emma whispered. Adrian closed the distance between them, cupped her face in his hands with a gentleness that seemed impossible from someone so dangerous. "I love you, Emma Lawson. I have no right to. I've done nothing to earn it. But I'm completely in love with you. Your strength, your compassion, the way you see past what I am to who I might become. I love you. And I won't let my past destroy your future. Tears spilled down Emma's cheeks. You're an idiot. I know. A dangerous, complicated, infuriating idiot who thinks he can just upend my entire life and make these grand gestures. I know. And I'm an even bigger idiot, she continued, her voice breaking, because I think I'm falling in love with you too. Despite everything, despite the logic that says this is insane. Adrian's expression transformed, hope lighting his dark eyes like sunrise. Emma, but I need to know this is real, she interrupted. Not just adrenaline or guilt or some rescue fantasy. I need to know you're really leaving that world behind, not just saying it because you almost lost me tonight. Then let me show you. Adrian pulled out his phone, dialed a number. Marcus, convene the council, tomorrow night. I'm invoking my right to voluntary separation. He listened to whatever his second-in-command said, his jaw tightening. I don't care about tradition or precedent. I'm out. Make it happen. He hung up and looked at Emma. Tomorrow night I walk away officially. There's a process, a council vote, terms to negotiate. But it's happening. James cleared his throat. I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I want guarantees. Written, legal guarantees that my sister stays safe, that your enemies don't come after her when you're gone. Already drawn up. Adrian pulled papers from his jacket. Emma gets a new identity if she wants it. A trust fund she doesn't need, but I'm giving her anyway. And round-the-clock protection until every threat is neutralized. It's all here. I don't want your money, Emma said, echoing her words from their first conversation at the hospital. I just want you to be free. Really free. Then help me. Adrian took her hands, and she could feel them trembling slightly. The great Adrian Cross, brought to his knees by hope and fear. Come with me tomorrow night. I need you there when I face the council. I need them to see what I'm choosing over the Empire. I need you to be my reason. It was insane, completely insane. Walking into a room full of criminals, making herself visible to the very organization she should be hiding from. But looking into Adrian's eyes, seeing the desperate sincerity there, Emma knew she was going to say yes. Because somewhere between hating him and saving his daughter and being saved by him, she'd started to believe in second chances. Okay, she whispered. I'll be there. The next night, Emma stood in the back room of a restaurant in Little Italy, surrounded by men in expensive suits who looked at her with varying degrees of curiosity and hostility. This was the council, the heads of the 5 families that controlled New York's underground. Adrian stood at the head of the table, his posture relaxed, but his eyes sharp as knives. Gentlemen, thank you for convening on short notice. His voice carried authority despite what he was about to do. I'm here to formally request voluntary separation from the organization. I'm walking away. You can't just walk away, Antonio Moretti said, his voice dangerous. You know too much. You're too valuable. This isn't a job you quit, Cross. I'm aware of the traditions. That's why I've brought insurance. Adrian placed the flash drive on the table. Everything. 20 years of operations, financial records, names, dates, locations. If anything happens to me, if any of you make a move against me or mine, this information goes to the FBI, the SEC, and every major news organization in the country. You'll all spend the rest of your lives in federal prison. The room erupted in angry voices. Emma's heart pounded. James, dressed as a waiter and positioned near the door, caught her eye. His hand rested casually near his concealed weapon. You'd betray us? Moretti stood, his face red with fury. After everything we've built together? I'd protect what matters, Adrian said calmly. I've given you 20 years. I've made you all richer than you ever dreamed. I've eliminated your enemies and expanded your territories. But I'm done. My daughter almost died. The woman I love was kidnapped and nearly killed because of this life. I'm choosing them over you. And you're going to let me walk away because the alternative destroys us all. Silence fell. Emma could barely breathe. This was the moment, the knife's edge between freedom and death. Finally, The oldest member of the council, Giovanni Russo, spoke. There's precedent for this. Voluntary separation with conditions. You pay a percentage of your assets as an exit fee. You surrender all territory and operations. You never speak of our business. And you leave New York. Done. Adrian agreed immediately. Except the last part. I stay in New York. My daughter is settled here. Her doctors are here. We stay. That's not negotiable, Moretti growled. Then we have a problem. Adrian's voice went cold, dangerous. Because I'm not uprooting my daughter's life again. She's been through enough. So you either accept my terms, or we all go down together. Choose. The standoff lasted an eternity. Emma watched these powerful men weigh their options, calculate odds, measure costs. Finally, Russo nodded slowly. You stay in New York, but you're invisible. You don't involve yourself in any business, legitimate or otherwise, that touches our interests. You become a ghost in truth, not just name. And the girl? He gestured to Emma. She keeps her mouth shut about what she saw, what she knows. I'm a nurse, not a criminal, Emma found her voice, stepping forward despite her fear. I have no interest in your world except that it tried to kill me. All I want is for Adrian to be free to be the father his daughter deserves. That's all I've ever wanted. Russo studied her with ancient, calculating eyes. You love him? This man who's destroyed lives, who's built an empire on fear. I love who he's becoming, Emma answered honestly. I love the man who'd give up everything for his daughter, who came alone into a warehouse to save me knowing he'd probably die. That's the man I see. The rest is his past, and everyone deserves a chance to leave their past behind. Something shifted in the room. Maybe it was her honesty. Maybe it was the reminder that they were all human underneath the violence. Russo nodded once. The council grants voluntary separation. Adrian Cross, you're released from your obligations effective immediately. Your assets will be liquidated according to standard terms, 40% to the organization, 60% retained. You have 1 month to transfer all operations. After that, you're a civilian. And if you ever break these terms, the penalty is death for you and everyone you love. Agreed? Agreed. Adrian's hand found Emma's, squeezed tightly. Thank you. They left the restaurant together 20 minutes later, stepping out into the New York night as different people. Adrian Cross was no longer a crime lord. He was just Adrian, a father, a man trying to build a better life. Emma leaned against him, exhausted and exhilarated. Is it really over? She asked. The hard part is just beginning, he admitted. Building a legitimate life, figuring out who I am without the empire, being worthy of you and Sophia. You don't have to be worthy, Emma said softly. You just have to keep trying, keep choosing us over the darkness. That's all I need. Adrian kissed her then, gentle and full of promise, right there on the street corner where his old life ended and his new one began. Tomorrow would bring challenges, adjustments, the hard work of redemption. But tonight, they had each other, and Sophia waiting at home with her grandmother, and the possibility of a future neither of them had dared to imagine. It was enough. More than enough. It was everything. 6 months later, Emma woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee and pancakes. For a moment she was disoriented, then remembered. This was her new normal. Adrian's penthouse had become their home, a space they'd slowly transformed from a bachelor's cold showcase into something warm and lived in. Sophia's drawings covered the refrigerator. Emma's nursing textbooks shared shelf space with Adrian's business books. It was chaotic and imperfect and absolutely perfect. She found Adrian in the kitchen, dressed in jeans and a casual shirt, his hair still damp from the shower, flipping pancakes while Sophia sat at the counter chattering about her upcoming school play. The domestic scene made Emma's heart clench. This was the man who'd once made grown men tremble. Now he was worried about whether he'd added enough chocolate chips. Morning, she said, sliding onto a stool beside Sophia. Emma, Daddy's making pancakes shaped like butterflies. Well, he's trying. Sophia giggled as another misshapen pancake landed on the plate. They're abstract butterflies, Adrian defended, his eyes meeting Emma's with warmth that still made her breath catch. Modern art. You uncultured Philistines wouldn't understand. Uh-huh. Emma accepted the coffee he slid toward her, their fingers brushing in a touch that sent familiar sparks up her arm. What's the occasion? Can't a man make pancakes for his family without an occasion? Adrian's smile faltered slightly. Actually, there is something. The final paperwork came through. The business transfers are complete. As of this morning, I'm officially a civilian with a completely legitimate income from my legal investments. 6 months of hard work, coming to this moment. Emma knew how much Adrian had sacrificed to get here, how many difficult choices he'd made. He'd sold off territory, transferred operations, cut ties with people he'd known for decades. It hadn't been easy or clean, but he'd done it. For Sophia. For her. For himself. That's amazing, she said softly. How do you feel? Terrified, he admitted, watching Sophia color at the counter, oblivious to the weight of the conversation. I've been that person for so long. I'm not sure who I am without it. What if I'm boring? What if I can't adjust to normal life? Then we'll figure it out together. Emma reached for his hand. That's what families do. The word hung between them, heavy with implication. They hadn't officially defined what they were, this relationship built on impossible circumstances and against all odds survival. They lived together, co-parented Sophia, fell asleep tangled together every night. But they'd been afraid to name it, as if speaking it out loud might shatter the fragile peace they'd built. About that, Adrian said, and Emma's heart started pounding. Sophia, can you go get the thing from my office? The special thing we talked about? Sophia squealed and ran off, returning moments later with a small velvet box that made Emma's breath stop entirely. Emma Lawson, Adrian began, and his hands were shaking as he took hers. 6 months ago, you saved my daughter's life. 4 months ago, you looked at a monster and saw a man worth saving. Every day since, you've shown me what it means to be better, to choose love over fear, to build instead of destroy. He opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant diamond ring. I know I have no right to ask this. I know my past is complicated, and my present is messy, and my future is uncertain. But I love you. Sophia loves you. And I want to spend the rest of my life proving that I can be the man you deserve. Will you marry me? Emma's vision blurred with tears. This man, this impossible man, on one knee in his kitchen making butterfly pancakes and offering her everything. You're right, she said, and watched hope flicker in his eyes. You have no right to ask. Your past is terrifying, your present is messy, and your future is completely uncertain. Emma? But yes. She laughed through her tears. Yes, I'll marry you, because I don't want perfect. I want real. I want you, Adrian Cross, exactly as you are and as you're becoming. I want the pancakes and the school plays and the messy, beautiful, impossible normal life we're building together. Adrian stood and kissed her while Sophia cheered and danced around the kitchen. The ring slipped onto Emma's finger perfectly, catching the morning light. Simple. Real. A promise of a future they'd both fought so hard to reach. The wedding 3 months later was small and intimate, just family and a few close friends. James walked Emma down the aisle, his cop instincts finally relaxing around Adrian after months of watching him prove himself through actions, not words. Sophia was the flower girl, beaming in her pink dress, scattering petals with wild abandon. And Adrian waited at the altar, tears streaming unashamedly down his face as the woman who'd saved him walked toward their future. I never thought I'd have this, he whispered when she reached him. A second chance. A family. You earned it. Emma whispered back. Every day, you earn it. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promising not perfection, but presence, not ease, but effort. Not a fairy tale, but a real love built on choice and recommitment every single day. When the officiant pronounced them married and they kissed, Emma felt something settle in her chest. This was home. This complicated, messy, beautiful family was home. The reception was at a restaurant that Adrian had legitimately purchased and renovated, his first completely legal business venture. Emma watched him dance with Sophia, both of them laughing, and felt her brother appear at her elbow. "I never thought I'd say this," James admitted, "but he's good for you. And more importantly, you're good for him. You made him want to be better." "He made that choice himself," Emma corrected gently. "I just gave him a reason to follow through." "Same thing." James kissed her forehead. "Be happy, Em. God knows you've both earned it." Later that night, as they slow danced to music that was too loud and champagne that was too sweet, Adrian pulled Emma close and whispered, "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me. For saving me. For loving me even when I didn't deserve it." He touched his forehead to hers, this gesture that had become theirs. "I spent 20 years building an empire of fear, but you taught me that the real power is in choosing love, in choosing to be vulnerable, in choosing to be better. We chose each other," Emma corrected, her hand resting over his heart. "That's what makes it work. We keep choosing each other every day." "Every day," he agreed, and kissed her under the fairy lights strung across the restaurant that represented his new life. 3 years later, Emma pushed open the door to their brownstone in Brooklyn, exhausted from a 12-hour shift at the hospital, and stopped at the scene before her. Adrian sat on the living room floor surrounded by dolls and tea sets, his suit jacket discarded, his hair mussed, having an apparently very serious tea party with Sophia and her new baby sister, 2-year-old Grace, who had Emma's blue eyes and Adrian's dark hair. "You're late for tea, Lady Emma," Sophia announced imperiously. "We've been waiting forever." "My sincerest apologies, Your Highness." Emma dropped her bag and joined them on the floor, accepting the plastic teacup Adrian handed her with exaggerated formality. "How was everyone's day?" "Daddy picked me up from school and we made cookies, but Grace ate half the dough," Sophia reported. "Grace is a cookie monster," Adrian confirmed solemnly. "We're seeking professional help for her addiction." "Cookies," Grace agreed cheerfully, chocolate still smeared on her chubby cheeks. This was their life now. Messy and chaotic and so completely normal it still sometimes took Emma's breath away. Adrian ran a legitimate investment firm, spent his weekends coaching Sophia's soccer team, changed diapers and did bedtime stories, and had never once looked back at the life he'd left behind. Oh, there were moments, times when old contacts tried to pull him back, or when news reports mentioned his former associates. But he'd built walls between that world and this one, walls made of choice and commitment and love. That night, after the girls were in bed, Emma and Adrian stood on their back porch, his arms around her waist, her head on his shoulder, watching the sunset over Brooklyn. "Do you ever regret it?" Emma asked quietly. "Giving it all up?" "Every day," Adrian answered honestly, and she stiffened in surprise. He turned her to face him, his expression serious. "Every day I wake up and think about who I used to be, the power I had, the fear I commanded. And every day I look at you and Sophia and Grace, and I realize I regret nothing. I'd give it up 1,000 times over for this. For you. For pancakes and tea parties and bedtime stories. For being a man my daughters can be proud of instead of afraid of." "They adore you," Emma said softly. "We all do. I know. And that terrifies me more than any enemy ever did." He cupped her face gently. "Because I have so much to lose now. So much that matters. But that's also what makes me want to be better every single day." "You are better," Emma assured him. "Not perfect, but better. And that's all that matters, that you keep trying." They stood there as the sun set on another ordinary, extraordinary day. This crime lord turned father, this nurse who'd saved more than a little girl's life. Their story had started with coffee-stained suits and cruel words and a moment of desperate crisis. But it had become something neither of them could have imagined. A real love. built on choice and redemption, and the daily decision to be better than their pasts. Inside, Grace started crying. Probably another nightmare. Adrian kissed Emma once, softly, and headed inside to comfort their daughter. Emma watched him go. This man who'd once been feared throughout New York, now singing lullabies in the darkness. She thought about the waitress she'd been, the nurse she'd become, the wife and mother she now was. Life had a strange way of working out. Sometimes the most broken people could become the most whole. Sometimes the darkest pasts could lead to the brightest futures. Sometimes love really could transform monsters into men. And sometimes, just sometimes, spilling coffee on the wrong person turned out to be the best accident of your entire life. Emma smiled and went inside to join her family, closing the door on the past and stepping fully into the beautiful, messy, perfectly imperfect present. This was their story, their redemption, their happily ever after, earned through choice and struggle and the daily decision to choose love over everything else. And it was more than enough. It was everything.